So what we're going to do is introduce legislation to require that every single person who registers to vote in a federal election must prove that they're an American citizen first.
That's racist.
As we've been reporting for a while now on this channel, Democrats have been engaged in massive voter replacement. Why else would Joe Biden have the border completely wide open, allowing 10 million illegal immigrants into this country without batting an eye, without even caring? And of course, he's only saying now that, oh, we've got to actually do something about this because it is tanking him in the polls. It is now the single biggest issue to American voters, but he doesn't care because he realizes, hey, the voters we lose, we can just replace them. And if we don't get them this cycle, their kids will be able to vote eventually. And all these crazy leftist states, well, we don't have to worry about them because they're just going to, by caveat, have people be allowed to vote because no one is keeping track and no one actually cares. Now, hold on there, angry teacher. Why in the world would Democrats want illegals to vote? Well, the answer to that is really, really simple. They have been hemorrhaging voters that they've been relying on for years. So, of course, they have to replace them. As you can see, Black and Hispanic voters are deserting Democratic Party in large numbers, according to the polls. This, of course, from The Guardian. And don't forget, also, we have millennials, we have independents. They are all leaving the Democratic Party. So it makes perfect sense if you're Democrat leadership that you need to, of course, bolster up that base. And how better to do that than by allowing in millions of people all over the world and offering them free stuff. It makes perfect sense when you look at it from that angle. But of course, there's always some good news. We have new GOP representation that is out there saying, hey, we're going to really tamp down, hopefully, on voter shenanigans this 2024. But also, Donald Trump and Mike Johnson have a little legislation they've worked on that will hopefully safeguard our election. Now, I'm under no illusions it will actually pass through the Senate and that Joe Biden will sign it. But the point is, we want to draw it to people's attention. So let's go ahead and take a look at their statement.
So what we're going to do is introduce legislation to require that every single person who registers to vote in a federal election must prove that they're an American citizen first. You have to prove it. That will be a new part of the federal law and a very important one. Our bill will establish new safeguards. It'll put us on par, by the way, with virtually every other democracy around the world that also prohibits non-citizen voting. And this is a critical thing for us to do at a very critical time. Our bill also will require states to remove non-citizens from their existing voter rolls. That's a big problem, too. And it will provide access to databases from the Department of Homeland Security and the Social Security Administration to help the states administer this. As the entity that is responsible for regulating federal elections, Congress has this responsibility. We cannot wait for widespread fraud to occur, especially when the threat of fraud is growing with every single illegal immigrant that crosses that border. This is something most Americans are deeply concerned about. The latest poll says 78% of the Americans who are polled say that preventing illegal immigrants from voting in our elections is a top priority. In every place I've gone around the country, whether it's out west, Midwest, Long Island, Deep South, it doesn't matter. Everybody is concerned about this. We have a job to do. Here's what you need to look for, and I'll turn it back to the president. When we put this bill on the floor, you're going to see a record vote by Republicans and Democrats. You'll see that the Republicans stand for election integrity. And then we'll be able to ask this very important question of the Democrats. They're going to have to go on record. Do you believe that Americans and Americans alone should be the ones who vote in American elections? We're about to find out their answer. And I think that will be a very interesting one.
So that, of course, has widespread support, as Mike Johnson said. And I love the fact that he's actually making people go on record to say exactly where they stand. Because how often do they have these closed ballot votes where it's just simple, oh, here's the majority, here's the minority, this is what happened, but not what individual stances were. So people can actually hold it against their representatives when it's election time. But also, I just want to kind of reiterate this idea. The American people are for this. It makes perfect sense to pretty much everyone. According to Pew Research, you can see over here that yes, 81% of Americans believe we should have voter ID required. All right, voter ID required. And as was mentioned by Mike Johnson in the clip as well, when you talk about all those countries over there in Europe that the left says we should absolutely mimic, when you tell them we don't have voter ID, they're like, that is crazy. That's insane. But guess what? They also have canceled a lot of their mail-in voting policies because I actually tried that out a few decades ago and they found out that, oh, that actually opens the door for widespread fraud. And of course, they backed off all of that. But here we are in America going gangbusters towards those scenarios. But of course, voter ID, election integrity, only allowing American citizens to vote. These are all horrible ideas to the left. Let's check this out.
This is, I feel like I say this all the time, it's insane because it is not legal to vote if you are not a citizen of the United States of America.
Right.
Congress has already, they already passed legislation for that way back before, I could even, go to school, okay?
Right.
Back in the 90s, I think they did this. Right, Michael? I don't know. Michael's older than my father. We joke about this all the time. So now, according to, after, Donald Trump and his insurrection buddy, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, after they had their meeting, now apparently House Republicans are going to pursue legislation requiring proof of citizenship to vote. My question is, so we're going to show proof to Miss Susie at the polling place? How is Miss Susie going to verify? Are we asking people to bring their papers? This is America. So I just want to know, is this what all of the House Republicans want to lay their chips on, even the 18 that sit in districts that Joe Biden won in 2020?
What strikes me is this is the long tail of a long time Republican effort to make it harder to vote, because they know that some of those requirements, having to show a license, they disproportionately impact communities of color. And what's interesting to me is they also disproportionately impact older Americans.
Oh, yes,
right?
yes,
So,
yes.
And that's the part that you would think that Republicans would be more attuned to strategically.
But I think the bigger, broader, scarier point, Alicia, is this is all to breed distrust in our elections process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, make no mistake, I still engage with the Republican Party base every single day. I know 70 to 80% of them don't believe Biden really won, but that hardcore base, the 40 to 50%, they no longer trust our elections. Trump is doing this on purpose. Distrust then will lead to violence. It happened in 2020.
Now, just to be clear here, that was Simone Sanders. She is a political strategist, not to be confused with Ayanna Pressley. All right, so they both got those shaved heads now, and I honestly think they looked a lot better with hair, natural or not. But either way, Simone, of course, brings up that tired old argument, right? If you require any type of verification, then automatically you're trying to stop people of diverse backgrounds from being able to vote. Never mind the simple fact that a year ago, they wanted every single person in America to have a vaccine passport, to have an ID card they could present upon demand to go anywhere, to do anything. All right. But now all of a sudden they're against proving that you are actually a citizen and are legal to vote in this country. That somehow is the worst possible thing in the world. Never mind the fact that most blacks support this, most Hispanics support this, and as we just showed, most Americans support this by huge margins. 80% is nothing to stick your nose up at. These leftists are insane, and the last thing they want is free and open and fair and monitored elections, because how else would they win? And of course, the old self-flagellating white man on the panel has to say, oh, I can't believe how many Republicans actually don't trust our election system. To which I say, hey, we actually seem to get more and more evidence every day of election tampering, both in current elections and former elections, like all the way back here in 2020. Apparently, in Georgia, there was an actual report that said, yes, there were a whole bunch of violations to our election, but somehow the report went missing. It never got submitted when all the trials were going on. And we've seen this type of thing over and over and over again. Oh, as time tends to pass, the truth tends to come out. And the most safe and secure election in our nation's history now kind of seems to be anything but. But don't tell the left any of that. So as usual, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and as usual, stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.